Welcome to Economics Lesson 4.2. We are going to talk about monopolies. Hopefully you all have played that wonderful board game that takes forever. And if you remember from the board game, monopolies end up being where one person is pretty much in control of everything and has all the money. And that's pretty much what we're gonna be doing. So we're going to talk about characteristics and examples of a monopoly, how they are formed, including government ones, how firms make output decisions with a monopoly, and then, why monopolists sometimes do price discrimination. And price discrimination is probably not what you think. So what is a monopoly? A monopoly is a market in which a single seller dominates. Single seller. And when I think of monopolies, because the government does regulate and break up monopolies, the best monopoly example would be prescription medication. And that usually happens, and we'll get down there, when a company develops a new prescription drug, they get a patent, they have exclusive rights for 7 years to sell that drug. So nobody else can sell it. So that's a single seller selling one product. They're going to dominate that. And when we have monopolies, we want to be in what's called an economies of scale. These are characteristics that when, as you produce more and more product, your average cost per unit is going to go down. So that means if your average cost per unit is going down, what's happening to profit margin? It's going up. So we want to continue to produce more product because that's going to make our average cost go down and therefore more profit. Now, a natural monopoly is going to be a market that runs most efficiently when one large firm provides all of the output. We can correlate this back to market failures when we were talking about the free market and how things as a private good in the market fail, like our bridge scenario. But as a public good, it works. And when I think of natural monopolies, I think of, the electric company. Again, those were market failures. Water company, natural gas, definitely those. And they can also be a government monopoly. Government monopoly, I think of the New York subway. That is transportation for all New Yorkers. It's owned by the government, and it's the only subway. There's not 2 or 3 different subways that you can take. It's one subway, and that would be a government-created monopoly. Now let's go back to patent. Patent is a license that any inventor of a new product can get and gives them 7 years exclusive rights to produce it. So that means, like, if I make a new prescription medication, no one else can sell it. And I remember, I'm going to use Zyrtec as an example. A lot of people use that for allergies. I was taking it probably 10 years ago when it was still a prescription, and it cost me $40 a month. Why? Why was it so expensive? Because whoever makes Zyrtec had a patent on that formulation. And until the patent ran out, you couldn't sell generic. Now you go to Walmart and you have the name brand Zyrtec, and then you have the generic cetirizine. I can go to Sam's Club and get a whole bottle for $10, $350. And it's because the patent ran out. And now it's no longer a monopoly. Several people can be producing it. Franchise. I think of Chick-fil-A, McDonald's. And when you have a franchise, you get a exclusive market. So Chick-fil-A, like at Rivergate, has, this radius around them. There can't be another Chick-fil-A. And then we have Chick-fil-A Hendersonville, and there can't be another one around it. And again, that kind of guarantees the owner of that franchise that, we're not going to stick our exact same product right near you where you're competing against each other. People want Chick-fil-A, they're coming to that location. License. This is right to operate a business. Technically, if you are selling something, you need to have a license. I remember reading an article one time about some young girls that had a lemonade stand, and someone called the cops on them because technically they did need a business license. Don't worry, it ended up really, really well. The police officer took the girls with parent permission to City Hall, allowed them to apply for a license, and he paid for it. I know I've got one in Hendersonville. It's like $20, and he paid for it so that when they were sitting out there selling their lemonade, they were an official business with their business license posted. I thought that was always a cute story. Price discrimination. Now, again, we hear the word discrimination and instantly, you probably think, ooh, something negative. Actually, this is not a negative form of discrimination. This is when we divide consumers into groups based on how they will pay for a good. The best example would be you go to the movie theater and we have, children are a cheaper price. Senior citizens are a cheaper price. Students might get a discount. That's price discrimination, where we can separate into groups and how much they'll pay. We do that in school when we have free and reduced lunch, because we're discriminating based on income and then offering different price levels based on income. And again, like I said, it's not a negative form because that's positive. We're actually offering lower prices to people with children to the movies, or senior citizens that are on fixed incomes. And then we've got market power. And this is the ability of a company to control prices and total market output. Like if you think in the shoe industry, how much market power does Nike have? And this is what I was talking about. When it comes to medication, this is one of the best examples of a monopoly. And if you get a question on monopoly, I'd think like, ooh, prescription drug. Here you've got a serious infection and there's only one medication, brand name, that'll cure it. And when you go to the pharmacy, it costs like $100. That's $10 a pill. And you might be thinking, I don't want to take that. I don't want to pay $100. But what if it's the only thing that cures you? You're going to find out you've got to pay it. And it stinks. It really, really stinks. And a lot of people are facing that. Diabetics face this issue because insulin is life-saving for them. There was an issue a couple of years ago with EpiPens. EpiPens were running around $800 a pen for people that have severe allergies. And everybody was like, how can I afford to buy this life-saving medication for myself or my child or my loved one? And it's $800. And again, that's when sometimes the government will intervene, and the government did intervene there to drop the prices down. Now, characteristics of a monopoly. Monopolies want to be economies of scale. They want to be assuring that, it's ways down. They want to be assuring that total cost per unit is going down as we produce more. Now, why are prescription drugs so expensive? Look down here. It costs about $1 billion to produce a single new drug. Now, that's an average. Think of how much cancer medication and right now COVID stuff, how much that stuff is costing. And those development costs can be a barrier entry that leads to monopoly, because who's got billions of dollars laying around to try to go develop a new prescription drug? Not many. Here are characteristics of a monopoly. Make sure you know these. There is one single business, one firm selling it, and they're selling one product. There's no variety. If it's this pen, then I am the only one that can sell this pen, and there's no variety. There's no color changes, nothing. No, bigger spot. It's exactly the same. Nothing changes. That's why we tend to do prescription drugs, because there's not a variety. It's one. The barriers to entry are complete, because there's a patent. If I have a patent on a prescription medication, then nobody else can sell it. And also, if I'm monopoly, I have complete control over prices. If I have a cancer curing drug, could I charge $1,000 a pill for it? Yep, I could. Unethical, but I could. And then sometimes that's why when we start getting into the ethics of it, the government can come in and try to legislate. Another characteristic is this idea of economies of scale. Here you can see the first one. If we're in diseconomy of scale, then as average total cost goes down, it's eventually going to start rising at a certain level. We want to be over here where the average total cost curve, where we're economy of scale, it's going down and it keeps going down. It's going to keep going down. We don't want it to go back up. Now, the government will allow natural monopolies to form and even create some government monopolies. Again, great example of government monopoly, the subway of New York. However, when monopolies occur, they are regulated by the government. Even the prescription drugs are regulated by the patent. There's technological monopolies, franchises and license that you have to have. Let's look at some of the important patents in U.S. history. The first patent was all the way in 1790. Yeah, Samuel Hopkins created potash, which is a fertilizer ingredient. I mean, what if that took barren land and all of a sudden made it, where you could plant stuff? Huge, huge. Now, you don't always have to have a brand new product to patent. If you look at 1851 down here, Isaac Singer, he didn't create the sewing machine, but he invented a faster and less expensive one, and he got the patent on that because he took something already in existence and like improved upon it and made it better and had such unique things, he got a patent for it. This one in 1903, I love this one. This one really piqued my interest because it said Mary Anderson. And Mary has been a man's name in some places. And so my first thought is, that's got to be a guy. Why? It's 1903. Women did not have a lot of rights back then. Couldn't even vote. Not many women were working. So it made me question if it was a woman. The other thing, too, is if you start talking about cars, how many people in 1903 had cars? People were still horse and buggy and walking everywhere. So I did look it up, and it is a woman, which I find very, very fascinating and interesting. And I'd love to know the story. I haven't found it yet, but maybe she was just constantly riding in the car with her husband and tired that she couldn't see. Or if you're like me, if I was riding in the car with my husband and he couldn't see the way he drives, I would be inventing whatever I could so I'd stop freaking out because he couldn't see. If you look here in 2008, Apple was granted the iPhone patent. So that would be the very first iPhone. And it ran out in 2015. And you might go, oh, then anybody can sell an iPhone. That was a patent on the iPhone 1. Nobody sells that anymore. Nobody runs them anymore. They're obsolete. Each time there's a new iPhone that comes out or a new Samsung, they get a patent. That's why they add things to it. They add technology. They add enough that they can get a patent, and it's going to last for 7 years. Kind of smart. Now, a government-created monopoly, an example here would be like at Yellowstone National Park or Smoky Mountain National Park, where you have the gift shops as you're going around, and they sell stuff. This is a contract that the government will give to a certain business and say, hey, you can run our gift shops. You give us a cut back, but they're not going to let anybody else in there. Once they sign a contract with someone, it's that person running it, and that's it. And that's a government monopoly. It is. But again, the government regulates it to make sure they're not charging, $1,000 for one of those pencils. And here, this goes back to the medication thing. If you suffer from asthma or diabetes or latex allergy or food allergy, we're talking about medication that's life-saving. Very, very life-saving. And how would it be if you heard, if you got cancer and you heard there's a drug that can cure you, but it's $1,000 a pill? Can't afford that. Like, you can't. And it's coming down to like my life can be saved if I had enough money. That's really, really hard. And I've done that. I've had several medications that I've had to pay a high cost because of the patent on it. But one of the reasons why we have the patent, you might think it's bad, is if it's $1 billion to develop a drug, that gives them 7 years to recoup that $1 billion and make a profit. If drug companies didn't have the opportunity to get back their investment and make a profit, no one would be trying to come up with better medications. Yeah. Now, here's one of the problems with prescription drugs. If you look at the Consumer Price Index, which is that market basket of goods that people buy, and they keep track of the pricing to judge inflation, look at where it's at. It's had a little steady increase. Not much, but look at the increase in prescription drugs. These are brand name prescription drugs. Why? It's more expensive to manufacture them. It's a lot more. We have a lot more technology. We're coming up with new ones because of technology, but that's also increasing the price. And again, a company might find that increasing output actually lowers marginal revenue. That's if they're in that diseconomies of scale, and average total cost per unit is starting to increase after so many units. So even drug companies have to be careful that they just don't produce so many that they're starting to have their cost per unit go up. Now, let's talk about price discrimination. If we can divide customers in 2 or more groups and charge a different price to each group, this is price discrimination. And so the assumption with this is that different customers are willing to pay different prices for the same product. Now, if you're the monopolist, you're the only one selling the product. If you price it too high, you're only going to get a few customers buying. But if you price it too low, then you're going to lose a lot of profits from those people who would have been willing to pay more. So the solution is to set different price levels. And one example of that would be, again, going to the movies. You're not going to go as a parent taking your 3-year-old kid if you've got to pay $12. The child's probably going to sleep. But if I got to pay $5, I get that. I'm going to go. And then you think from the movie theater's point of view, maybe I buy a drink and some popcorn so my child can eat a little before they fall asleep. If I am a senior citizen, they're on fixed incomes. $12 times 2 plus popcorn. But if we give them a lower price, then it's more affordable, and maybe we get the concession stand from them as well. So how do we do price discrimination? First thing you have to do is you have to have a significant market power. You have to be able to have some control over price for this to work. If you can't control price, it's never going to work. You also have to be able to divide your customers into distinct groups. Child, student, adult, senior citizen. It also has to be something that's difficult to resell. How are you going to resell? Like somebody comes to me and go, hey, I have a child's ticket. You want it? Well, no, I'm an adult. And if you're going to resell me a ticket to the movie, why don't I just go buy one myself? Why am I going to wait around to get one? Because it's difficult to resell when people can get their own. And that is the end of 4.2. And we will see you for the next one for 4.3. Have fun.